So, um, so just do a quick roll call again for everybody. Matt Peel,
Here.
Peter Morrison,
Here.
Sarah Boyes,
Here.
Niles Parker,
Here.
and staff David Sharp here, Chantal Blois Murphy,
Here.
and Gary Roberts.
Here.
Okay. So I'm going to go forward with what's on the meeting materials, all supporting materials. Please, let me just start over. Sorry, still haven't had that second cup of coffee yet. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and all attendees are participating by video conference. Please be aware that other folks may be able to see you, and take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. All supportive materials that have been provided by members of this body are available on the town's website unless otherwise noted. The public is encouraged to follow along using posted agenda unless the chair notes otherwise. We are now turning to the first item on the agenda, and before we do so, permit me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate, fair meetings. The chair will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, the chair will go down the line of members, inviting each by name to provide any comment, questions, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. Further, please remember to mute your phone or computer when you're not speaking, and please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you and state your name before speaking. If members wish to engage in the conversation with other members, please do so through the chair, taking care to identify yourself. And for items of public comment, after members have spoken, the chair will afford public comment to those members of the public who have joined the meeting via Zoom. Members of the public who wish to speak must state their names and be acknowledged by and speak through the chair. Finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by a roll call vote. Okay, so Mary, I'm going to admit Mary in, so I guess let us begin with our conversation with Gary Roberts, who is the new NERDA administrator. Welcome, Gary. Thank you for coming in, and tell us all about what's going on with NERDA these days.
All right. Well, thanks for having me. I'll warn you to say that I've only been here for about 6 weeks now, and we're still digging through the operation on how things operate. I'll give a little background on myself that I've worked for 35 years at GATRA in the Attleboro Taunton area as the director of maintenance and a mechanic for many years there. So transitioning here has not been too difficult. I know the island and been coming here for about 9 years, and I have a house here. This is my first winter actually of being on the island full time, so it's slightly different than the summer season for sure. So currently with NERDA, there's a grant that's out there to purchase new vehicles. One of the biggest items that I find is the equipment is due to be updated and replaced. So we're trying to push through a punch list of items to assure that the vehicles that are currently here will be ready for the season. There's a lot of work to be done. The new vehicles will not be. There's a little bit of a hang up in the process with the state and the way the bidding went for the purchase of new vehicles. So that's been delayed until a point a little further on. So we're gonna push through one more summer season with the equipment that's here. But we're gonna, as time goes on, there'll be changes made, and I have a very strong background with electric vehicles. My hope over the years is to transition to electric equipment. I think it's better for the environment here and the noise pollution alone, just from the type of equipment that's running here now. So I look forward to when we can start getting the new equipment in here. I think the riding public will enjoy it, and the drivers will be a lot happier, and things should run a lot smoother once that process begins.
Any, Mary, do you want to,
Yeah, sorry, Gary, I wasn't able to introduce you. Technical issues, but I'm here now. Thank you so much. I don't know if you can hear me. Hopefully you can. I'm having internet problems in my neighborhood this morning. But I appreciate the moving forward with vehicles that aren't as loud, noisy. You can't walk by them. I mean, obviously we had to make do for, during COVID and everything else. And I understand what's, happening with budget and things with the state. So I think moving forward, it sounds to me like you're going in the right direction with moving towards vehicles that are not only more efficient, but a little quieter. So we thank you for that. I think the island will thank you for that. And we understand it's a timing issue too.
Yeah, nothing is ever easy sometimes when you deal with the state. Just the way the process went and the bidding on it from contractors didn't come out the way we would like. So I'm working with the state to look in a different direction to see how we can move things along in a different manner. And I'm hoping to get a vehicle over here to be seen by the public in the town, to get thoughts on it and see what people think about it. And we're hoping within maybe the next month or around a month, we could try to get it over here so people can see it and get reactions from people.
I remember many years ago when we were talking about doing some sort of shuttle system to begin with. It was very effective to have it out in front of town meeting. People got to see it, and that it was curiosity at that point. But I think everyone would welcome that as well.
Well, it'll be completely different from what runs here now. I mean, currently the buses that are here, they're basically a truck with a body put on it, and that's they're not the smoothest riding thing, and they're not the easiest bus to get into. So we're trying to find something that'd be more efficient for people to board the bus and get off quicker, and so it doesn't hold up traffic as well while people are waiting for the passengers to get on and off. But the biggest thing is to modernize to standards that are being used elsewhere.
Correct. Sarah?
Yeah, thank you, Mary. So Gary, I just had a question. Some of this is just, I don't know what the restrictions are, or if there are restrictions on Nantucket. Is there any discussion of increasing capacity, or how big are the proposed new vehicles compared to what was there before? Or are they just, just curious? I know certain routes have more demand than others.
I think my goal right now is to try to get, you're not going to replace the entire fleet in one shot. So we're going to identify routes by ridership and mileage by routes. Even if we can start bringing in some smaller ones on routes that can handle the capacity with them, that'd be a step in the right direction. I mean, one of the biggest concerns right now is getting drivers a CDL license. It's become a problem statewide. There was training that was getting set up to be done on the island, and then of course they decided to change the regulations on the test course, so now that has to be put off. So every transit authority is dealing with the issues of getting licenses for drivers and the lead time with the state police to do the testing. So if we can look at vehicles that, if you keep the capacity below a certain number, wouldn't require CDL. So if we can identify routes that do not require CDL, that could help in the hiring process as well. Obviously the Sconset route we'll need a larger vehicle that's on it. So that, that's just the planning that has to be done as you move along, is looking at your ridership and the mileage that each bus does to determine where to place smaller vehicles in the beginning. And then as the fleet starts being transitioned over to newer vehicles, there'll have to be planning put in place for the size of the vehicles.
And Peter?
A couple of points that I'm intrigued by this long-term transition to electric vehicles and the opportunities that it presents in a more strategic sense. First of all, I wanted to tell you, in case you don't know, that Nantucket is in federal terms, a rural area, which entitles it to things urban areas don't necessarily get support for in areas like transitioning to electric vehicles. Secondly, I wonder, have you crossed paths yet with our energy coordinator, Lauren Sinatra? Have you had any introduction to her yet?
I believe we've had an email in the beginning. I mean, I have such a stack of introductions that have to be done in meetings. Currently, right now, to be honest, the financial aspect of NERDA I'm working on right now. Not that there's an issue with the financial side of it, but it's more getting just the controls in place, working on controls with the operator. But there has to be discussions with the power necessary, the charging infrastructure that's needed. There is a low-no grant that is in place currently to purchase the vehicles that came from the FTA that's being procured through the state, that will pay for the equipment. It's just, it was set up for propane, but right now there isn't anyone that's really bidding vehicles for the propane. So there's a lot of funding out for low or no emission vehicles right now. And the state is also working on a statewide transition plan that helps with the grants to receive the grants easier, as long as there's a transition plan in place. So the state is actually helping out all the transit authorities to write the transition planning. So there is a list of people that I need to really reach out to. But once I get through this first step of getting all the financials in place the way that I'm going to feel comfortable with, then the next step of the process begins.
Good. I wasn't suggesting that you need to call her right away. And I'm looking at this, in the perspective of, you say you're going to be buying vehicles based on decisions that you might make, in the next year or so. And the purchasing of and the bringing the vehicles on board, I assume, will be a process that will span several years. Have I got that right, or is it going to be more immediate?
Well, I mean, originally when I got here, the plan, there was a plan, I think it was to replace 15 of the 19 vehicles. But in my years of experience, you generally don't want to replace an entire fleet at one point in time, just because you receive, if you receive this grant to do this, in 10 years, if you don't get that grant, another grant to replace them all at once, you're going to be in the same position that you are right now, where they've run out their life, and there wasn't a plan put in place to replace them gradually. So generally what you like to look at doing is, you want to do 3 buses, maybe 2 a year after that, or, in this case, there's going to have to be larger purchases made, but the planning should be in place to do 2 buses per year. So you're constantly evolving your fleet to newer technology and not getting behind where everything is now so old that it's become a process to keep them running. You really want to have a capital improvement plan to replace slowly, but constantly upgrading the fleet. So I would say that, you know, and everyone would say, yes, let's replace the whole fleet now, but I don't see that happening. I think that we would probably look at 3 vehicles in the first year, and then you test them, see how they run, and then you may have to go up to 5 the next year, but it'll be a 3 to 5 year plan to replace the entire fleet.
Perfect. Well, here's the gist of my thinking. You're going to have a long-term capital improvement plan, and be sure to keep Lauren Sinatra in the loop going forward over the next year or two. And my reason for saying that is because in transitioning to these vehicles, which will be running presumably all day, you are fundamentally advancing a transition on the island that she may want to build on by saying, we've got this known replacement of vehicles going forward over the next 5 to 7 years. They're going to be really disproportionately influential in shifting energy consumption from petroleum to electricity, which creates an addition to the demand that may be coming from the private sector. And there are big things in the picture that we look at here, like we have, cables to the mainland, and there's a big question of should there be a third cable? Should we somehow splice into all of the electricity that's going to be coming from the wind turbines en route to the mainland? And this sets up a situation where I think Lauren might have some really interesting ideas about accelerating the transition. This isn't something that you would be doing, but your actions will be redefining the context in a way that she can see the advantage that might be taken of it. This is like thinking 5-10 years ahead, and then add on to that the fact that we're a rural area, so we have a special entitlement to get money that cities don't have. So it's a big mouthful, but big picture.
Yeah, I know over at the Vineyard, at the VTA over there, that there are other options that you can add to just drawing electricity from the grid. They had constructed canopies instead of the buses just being parked outside in a lot. They had covered canopies with solar panels on them with energy storage systems where you can at least pull some power to help, so you're not putting such a demand on the grid. Where I came from at Gatra over in Taunton, it's a municipal lighting plant, and it's an older city, and the infrastructure there was such that they would only allow certain hours of charging. So that, the charges were programmed that you could plug them in, but say they wouldn't allow you to charge until 10 p.m. They would turn on automatically. And if they wanted them off by a certain time, we would rotate the vehicles through the charging process by programming, so you wouldn't have them all charging at the same time to help alleviate some of the demand that you put on.
Yeah, my point is there's a beautiful pony out there somewhere. And it strikes me as an opportunity that isn't going to be apparent unless Lauren thinks it through and says, if you're doing this changes the parameters of something else that she may have in mind. And I think it's a really interesting possibility, but we got to think long-term and strategically, including where the money's coming from.
Well, I will definitely
move
her to the top, closer to the top of the list, because this is a project that it takes some planning, and it's not an easy switch. And I'm not, even at this point, I'm not sure that the state is going to allow the grant process to be changed to electric. So it might even be a slower project, but if we do head in the direction that I'm hoping for, that I will have to, reach out to a lot of people for planning for this.
Yeah, just put it in mind as an ID. You don't have to talk to her right away, but she's probably the one who would seize on it. It's not something that adds to your list. It's just knowing that you're doing this and what your plan is something we can build on in other arenas.
All right, thank you.
Perfect. Any other questions for Gary while he's here? Yes, Matt.
Hey, Gary, nice to meet you. It's Matt Peel. I just had a question about schedules. Have you guys looked at schedules for the buses at all? I mean, changing them up. I know I've gotten some feedback, and personally myself with my business here, I've had to pass on a few employees that just can't get here in time because we start at 6 a.m. And I know there's been a couple, I've heard feedback from other people that wishes they had an earlier bus, because I don't think the first bus is till 7 or 7:30, I believe.
Well, unfortunately, the schedules were done before my arrival, that they were printed in here, but I will say my experience that I have been running back. My son is still playing hockey on the mainland, and I tried to run back on the weekends to catch some of his games. And I do find that if you arrive on the 8 o'clock at night, you get in on the boat and the bus leaves by 8:15, and sometimes it's a rush to get over to the bus so you don't miss it. I think that, there's so many tasks that I have to do right now. I do want to look at how some of the times are aligned with the boats, and what the frequencies are. And that's another thing that there's some planning with the state right now, that the equity funding that they're calling it, with a new tax that the state has put in for transportation and education, that we're trying to get more funding to increase the frequency and the hours of service that would be year round. Not stating that the year round service would run like it would be in the summer, but maybe if you can get the funding to add some earlier times, later times, or instead of an hour headway, you can knock them down to 30 minutes, and 30-minute headways, you can cut back to 15 minutes. So that's been presented, and I put in the numbers for that to see what we can get for funding. So that's in the state's hands now to see how much money they're going to spread out to the RTAs. But there is discussion, and we were actually in Boston last week to discuss the funding of that.
Perfect. Sarah?
Yeah, thanks, Mary. Yeah, Gary, I know that you have, you've been on the job a short amount of time, and it's kind of like that, seeing how everything runs to start. But I really appreciate the ability to time the boats to time the buses with the boats, because I think one thing we hear from visitor services is like, how to make everything nicer downtown. We know as a town that the parking downtown is a huge issue. So the more that we can do to alleviate like all the vehicles at Stop and Shop, I know obviously it's not going to replace that, but the more, I think that's the most helpful. And then to Matt's point about the workers kind of needing to come into certain areas by a certain time. I think that, as you're getting acclimated and seeing how things run for a full season, I think keeping all those things in mind, because the things that we hear about are, the clogs going to Sconset, for example, and wanting to open up parking downtown and that kind of thing. The other thing I just want to mention is, because we're visitor services, if you are, as you're kind of once again acclimating to the new position, I know maybe you've already tapped into this, but the resources of like the numbers and like when people are here and where they're traveling to, it's available in a lot of different forms. But I know that David Sharp and the Visitor Services Committee has a lot of that information that has been presented to us, but we can also share too, if that's ever helpful. But I'm sure this being your realm, traffic flow and numbers and everything like that. So however we can be a resource, keep us in mind.
Thank you. I mean, I am open to working with the different visitor center. I know there's been some discussion about even the sale of tickets. I do want to make the accessibility to getting tickets to ride the bus a lot easier. It seems odd that the only place to buy the long-term passes is in the office here, away from where the bus station is or at the visitor center. So we're going to have discussions as things evolve about how a lot of the processes have been done in the past, and try to see if we can make things. The biggest thing is to get ridership. You have to make it as easy as possible for the people. And as I've tried to explain to the operator of the buses, that the passengers want the buses on time, they want to be warm in the winter, and they want to be cool in the summer. So there's a philosophy that I've always had in my 35 years of doing this, that it's not difficult to keep the passengers happy, but there's just things that you have to do to make the ease of the use of the system is the priority.
Yeah, thanks, Sarah and Gary. My philosophy's always been make it easy for the customer to buy. So I appreciate, outlets and things. And as Sarah said, we are here to help support you. And if there's anything, David and Chantal are wonderful. We have the experience of on-island visitors and what it takes to keep them happy, we think. But we're always looking for other ways to expand. So, please feel free to reach out. But I think kiosks, automatic purchasing machines, things like that can certainly, help. So, thanks. Any other questions for Gary? Okay, seeing none. Gary, you're welcome to stay on for the rest of our meeting, but I know you're probably got a list of to-dos. Feel free to depart and welcome. We're glad you're here.
All right, well, thank you for the time. Normally I would stick on, but I have an accountant that's been waiting for me to go over some numbers and he's obviously stuck here because of the weather and he wants to get as much done as he possibly can. So I am going to hop off, but I appreciate your time and thank you.
Thank you, Gary.
Thank
Have
you,
a good
Gary.
day.
Okay, moving along on the agenda, we have director's report.
Good morning, everyone. So really quick report. It's been a heavy grant writing season at Culture and Tourism, with not only writing grants to the Mass Cultural Council so that we can get funding to contribute to many of the cultural organizations on the island programs, but also grant writing for the Massachusetts Office of Travel and Tourism, their destination development capital grants. I would like to do some work on the visitor services building, particularly fixing our windows and the shingles that are falling off. And I figured it's a little bit easier if I go find the money myself than asking taxpayers for that money. So I've been working heavily on that. I have an open grant at the moment to help with cultural programs for the summer and fall. That is open until March 31st. So if you are involved in any cultural organizations, please let them know that it's available, and I'm happy to share the application, which is literally just a one-page document, trying to keep it very simple and very easy to share those funds with island organizations. And outside of that, we'll be working more with Gary at the end of this month with setting up another option for folks to purchase those NERDA bus tickets, the seasonal passes, not just the one-day passes that people can buy on the buses, and creating a nice partnership between the Visitor Services Office and the NERDA office as well down there in the Greenhound building. So working on those logistical things. And outside of that, the office is picking up a little bit. We're getting a lot more phone calls and surprisingly a few visitors popping in here and there, which has been really nice to see some excited and fresh faces coming in to ask questions about what's going on. And of course, continuing existing partnerships and developing them a bit for this upcoming season. We will be hosting on June 1st a grant reception for all of our Massachusetts Cultural Council, Nantucket Cultural Council, and Nantucket Cultural District grant recipients, since we haven't been able to have that reception over the last few years. So it'll be 3 years worth of awardees that will be at this event. It'll be at 5:30 at the White Heron Theater, and we'll be sending out formal invitations that I'll of course share with this group as well, because we'd love to see you there. And I think we have so much going on, but I think that's where I'll wrap it if anyone has any questions for me.
Thanks, Chantal. I have a question. Hoping that possibly the way we suggested at the last meeting to support Sheila Lucy with her employees and the lifeguards, that we could possibly do something with the NERDA drivers as well. And I'm not saying, go to every staff meeting, but I think to keep them in the loop, that visitor services is a resource. And whether we, do a QR code on the buses or something, like we had suggested, for Sheila last month, that I think it's the same way to get the same message out to, a varied audience, but we're all saying the same message. And I think that's important. As I said, make it easy for the customer to buy and let them know where to get information. So if there's some way we could integrate something in the buses and, possibly do a little meet and greet for the drivers, in the beginning of the season. Years ago, and this is going way back, we used to have what was called Hospitality Week out here. And that was back when the numbers were a lot smaller, and we would do training, and it would be going to the Whalen Museum. And, we can't do that now because our customer base has changed. But the information can still be out there electronically and easily for people to access now. So, I'm hoping we could continue that and support Gary. He's going to have a busy season this year. And as he said, he's here in the winter, and it's totally different than his summer experience. So anyway, thank you. Any questions for Chantal? Yes.
I've got one.
Miles.
Yeah, Chantal, could you just confirm the date you mentioned for that reception? I missed the
Of course, it's June 1st.
first at 5:30.
And
Thank you.
You're on my list, you and your staff. So
Thank
Yeah, Peter?
Keep forgetting to unmute myself. Just a quick question for you, Chantal. You said that you're kind of looking into where the grant money is yourself. I'm assuming you're not spending all your time or a lot of your time writing grants, but maybe looking for grants that somebody else might apply to. One thing I just wanted to pass along, I have been somehow connected to the National League of Cities, which has, and if you just Google them, they have an incredibly well-organized website for small communities and big cities, to seek funding for just about anything. And if you want a quick source of information of opportunities that might pop up for quote rural areas, having to do with just about anything you might want, it's not about culture and tourism, but it sure in hell is about infrastructure and money that's available, and they're very up to date on things. I can send you the link to it, and you could just kind of scroll through it, and maybe if you have anybody there who you can delegate it to, just have them scroll through. There's all sorts of stuff out there for communities that have about the same population that we do, but don't have as much savvy about how to write the applications.
thank you, Peter. That's a great suggestion. I'd really appreciate you sharing that link with me. So thank you.
Will do.
Yeah, Chantal, I have another question. It seems that you're trying to get money to fix the building from outside sources. Is there any way that your department could tap into the millions of dollars that have come to this island from our visitors in the past few years, since we added the short-term rental tax option? I don't know where that money has gone, other than it came to the town, but has it been earmarked for anything? So I would love to have a discussion with you on that, because I watch the Mass Office of Tourism numbers and also state DOR as to what comes to the municipalities. And I think it was over 15 million in the past 3 years, or 12 million. I have a spreadsheet I'd be happy to share. It's not, go ahead.
Pardon me. There's a portion of this particular grant that requires matching funds, and some of the matching funds will be coming through some town sources.
Okay,
But I'd like to not have to fix the building, I'd like to not have to use all of the funds for that.
okay, perfect. That helps. Matt?
What about the marijuana tax money? I know the finance committee had a meeting, was it last week or week before? I know they were taking, bids or grants or something for dishing out that money. So there's quite a bit of that.
Yeah. And to be honest, the local option was added on, many, many years ago in the 80s to support municipalities. Because it was the visitors that were creating that fund, and it just seemed important that some of that fund be used to, aid them when they were here. So that's why the local option was put in place. And as I said, the late 80s. But anyway, Shanta, I'm sure you're on it. And it's just a source of revenue that I would hope gets spent wisely.
Yes, of course. And one of the things I've learned in the short while I've been here is to access town funding, because of us being a municipality, I'll be waiting forever to get my building fixed. So I'd rather go find the money that doesn't have all of the restrictions on it and then get it repaired in a timely manner instead of waiting for the windows to fall out. So that's why I've started exploring other options as opposed to going directly to the municipality for all of the funding.
Perfect. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, next item on the agenda is David's report, Visitor Services Coordinator. David, you're on mute.
Before I start, I want to kind of circle back to the approval of minutes because I skipped those at the beginning.
Oh, okay.
So can we do that first?
Absolutely. All right. We've all received in the packet the minutes of February 14th. Is there any discussion or changes? All right. Seeing none, may I have a motion to approve as written?
So moved.
Thanks, Sarah. Is there a second?
Second.
Matt, thank you very much. By roll call vote, all in favor. Peter Morrison.
Aye.
All right. Sarah.
Aye.
Niles.
Aye.
Matt.
Aye.
Okay, and I vote in the affirmative as well. Thank you, David. With the minutes will be recorded and as written.
Okay, all right. Also in our packet is the information for stats for February. Pretty much self-explanatory on that. Things are getting better and better. We're transitioning from winter to spring, and I can tell you we are busy this week at the office. So that's a good sign, getting a lot of phone calls about the summertime and what to do or how to get here. The travel and lodging brochures are here. If anybody wants to get a bunch, you can more than welcome to stop by and pick them up. They're also available for download on the website. And also, I got staff starting at the end of the month when I'm away. So we'll have limited staffing in the beginning of April. So that's a good sign as well. And that's all I have at this point.
Any questions for David? Okay, seeing none. All right, next item on the agenda, in-person meetings at the Pleasant Street Trailer.
Yes, I looked into this and basically, really, it's the option to meet at the trailer instead of Zoom. But I think everybody here has been very comfortable with meeting at Zoom. And the other thing is that you may be aware there's a bill going through on Beacon Hill that is going to possibly extend remote meeting options until 2025. Has not been It's only been passed by the House, but it's not been passed by the Senate yet. And once, the governor signs it, then we can continue to meet on Zoom. But I have been informed by town administration that they're waiting to see what happens after remote participation is supposed to end as of March 31st. So we will know afterwards where we're going to be meeting for our April meeting, which I will talk about separately. But just be aware that we may not be meeting by Zoom in April. It's all up in the air, so we'll let you know what's going on. But that's the thing is that the meeting trailer was the option if you felt like we had to all meet there, but there's also the Zoom capability at the trailer. But just want to let you know that. So that's all I have.
Okay, thank you, David. My guess is it will be extended. We're already in March. So I don't think
It may not, pass by the time we have our meeting in April. So that's why I'm kind of like giving you a heads up. We may be meeting in some different fashion.
Okay. The next thing you talked about, the last item on the agenda is the April meeting date. Is there?
Yes, we've asked Noah Carberg, who is now the airport general manager, to be our guest speaker in April. Unfortunately, Noah cannot make it on Tuesdays because he has a conflicting appointment at the same time. So he asked if it's possible to meet that Wednesday, the 12th, or Thursday, the 13th at 8 a.m. So my question to you all is, which is a better day to meet to meet with Noah in April, the 12th or the 13th?
Yeah, no, I have no problem with either. So let's see what helps with the majority. Peter, are you around? And Sarah there?
I'm indifferent. I'm available both times.
Okay, Sarah, does it make a difference?
It doesn't make a difference. Either one works for me that week.
Okay, well, maybe we should do Wednesday then if it's no conflict for anybody. Because sometimes Thursdays seem to get busy.
Okay.
And is that right before a long weekend? Is it?
No.
It's right
When's-
before school vacation.
Yeah, that's why I think Wednesday might be better on the 12th.
Okay.
So let's okay for Chantal, is that all right with you? Yeah, I think so.
I'll check with her. She probably had to
Yeah.
run
Yeah.
something real quick.
And I think sometimes Liz right before a long weekend, because isn't the 17th Patriots?
Yes.
So, the boats get busy, especially if there's questionable weather before a long weekend.
So we'll do Wednesday, April 12th at 8 a.m. To meet with Noah Carberg.
Okay, and then keep us posted, midway or around early April as to whether we have to be in person or on Zoom.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, anything else for the committee while we're here? I apologize for my internet, but out of my control. Anything else? Okay. David, thank you as always for keeping
welcome.
us informed, Chantal. And we'll look forward to some emails with a heads up ahead of time before the agenda.
Okay.
On timing and place, that would be helpful.
Okay, great.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you,
everybody.
everybody.
Okay.
See you on the 12th.
Bye.
Yep.